Today in our /nuclear revenge. I wanted my father to understand I wasn't coming. This is my first time posting. Sorry for the formatting. My parents divorced when I was in first grade. Not only did my dad disappear like Houdini, he stole my mother's end card to her personal account and drained her dry. My mother, being the saint she is, didn't even bat an eye. She still was cordial to him and never said a negative word about him. To me, my dad, albeit abandoning us, was still my hero. From first through fifth grade, I had the usual abandoned by dad stories. Maybe 1 or 2 visits in a year, and 50 times of me waiting by the front window with my suitcase packed to go to his house, and him never showing up. My mom through all of this was supportive, and never said an ill word about him. So he still stayed my hero. When I was in 6th grade, my mother finally remarried, and my father, who only had a picture of me at 8 months old in his wallet, went ballistic. Did I mention he never paid child support? He would use his father's social, they had the same name, to get away with it. After my mom remarried, he let it be known that I was now my stepdad's responsibility. He cut off communication with me until I graduated high school. He didn't attend my graduation or send a card. What he did do was write me an email thanking God he no longer had to pay child support. He didn't anyway. What really broke me was his ruthless and brutal attack on my mother, attacking her weight, looks, teeth, and blaming any perceived negative traits that I had in her. For the first time I realized what a cowardly piece of shit he was. I responded in kind. He told me I was no child of his, and that I was a waste. After that I vowed that I would hurt him. 10 years later, my father, not interested in my wedding or my son, reached out to me. You see, he is a diabetic, and one of his organs were failing, and he didn't have long. He's too far down on the list, and he needed someone in our family to donate. Nuclear revenge activated. I answered his email. I met up with him and pretended that I didn't hate his guts. I went and got tested to see if I was a match. I was. Did the therapy and met with doctors and his therapist. We scheduled the surgery. The day of the surgery we meet at the hospital. I smiled in his face and let him know that I wouldn't be going through with the surgery. I watched the confusion line his face. I just wanted you know that you re no father to me, and you re waste. I left the hospital and drive home. My mom was pretty annoyed with me that I took it that far. My father is dying, and I will be attending the funeral out of spite, and I will let everyone know what a piece of shit he was. Colder, father abandoned me and called me a waste. Later in life he needs an organ. I agree and match with him and abandon him at the hospital the day of the surgery after calling him a waste. He will die and I will ruin his funeral. Edit 1. This really blew up. For those questioning my actions, I will give further detail. My father was semi-obsessed with my mother. His attachment to us was only in his perceived ability to get back with my mother. In the beginning, he would call and make plans to see us, and just not show up. My mom would have to make up excuses. He has been married over 4 times and supports and loves his stepkids without a thought to us. Once my mother remarried, he was done with us. He kept in contact with my mother through email, but had no interest in talking to his children. I have reached out to him before, to invite him to my graduation, to let him know of my marriage, and that he was a grandfather. All I got back was pictures of his new wife's kiddos. Upon getting to know him after agreeing to donate, I went to one of his therapy sessions at his request. There I heard the story of the true reason he contacted me. I listened as he lamented about his impending death, how he was resigned to his fate, only to have his new wife remind him of his former kids, and maybe one of them will done it. And he got excited because he had forgotten all about us, and it was like hope renewed. Do you know how shitty it is to listen to the person who is responsible for your very existence talk about forgetting your very existence, like I was a pair of sturdy old boots that gathered dust in the back of the hall closet. Now rediscovered, I was to be warned to go shovel shit. I knew that I wasn't going to give him anything. Thanks for the silver and gold. Edit 2. I'm not worried about a Will being left anything. He had nothing to leave. He's the male equivalent of a gold digger. He only marries women who can take care and support him as he moaches off of them. He stole thousands from my mother, and she didn't press charges because she didn't want her children's father in jail. My mother was his first wife, and he learned his lesson not to have kids of his own but to move into ready-made families. His ex-wives and their children have nothing nice to say about him. When I told him I wasn't going through with it, he understood exactly why. He nodded his head in understanding. I already was approached for money to contribute to the funeral, and I will. Thanks for listening. Don't forget to like, subscribe, smash the bell, and whatever else our YouTube overlords require nowadays.